pick up these brand new Falken RT 660s, 275 square. Go to Buttonwillow, try these out on the car, see if I could go faster with my E92 than I did with my fully prepped E46. Let's load these things up and get the hell out of here. Got everything loaded up, so we're gonna head home, get the car on the jacks, and get to work. All right, well, it's been a while since we've been in this garage, and over the past bunch of months, you know, with the quarantine and everything, I've actually spent a lot of time redoing this because I've wanted a nice garage forever. And when I moved in here, if you watch some of my older videos, you know that this garage wasn't really that nice. This place is a friggin' mess. It needs to get painted. I need to do some sheetrock work in it. I need to do a lot of stuff. So I want to take you for a quick tour of it because I'm stoked, and a quick garage tour before we get started. First off, painted the ceiling, which was a huge improvement. Putting up these Amazon LED lights. These are great. They're like 40 bucks for a set of 4. And they rip, they're super bright. Painted the beam that comes out through the inside, I really like that, and then painted the entire roof, which sucked. Then I did a single garage door. This used to have 2 doors that were like old school flip up style. Put up some art, thanks to the Garage Welt dudes, these are super cool. Fun story is I actually put my old E46 on a skateboard deck, which was rad. And then the dude Eric, who is part owner of Garage Welt, actually owns this car now. And I'm really stoked because he's got a lot of really nice cars. I know it's in good hands, so it's cool to see it around still. Still need a cabinet for this, but it's where I keep all my mother's supply. Because if you know me, I love washing my car. I love having clean cars. These are awesome. I just found out that they made these, so I ordered a set. These are just quick jack holders. Save a ton of space to wall mount these because my garage isn't very wide. Every bit of floor space counts. And then I got the floors redone, just like a clear epoxy, because when I painted the ceiling, I wet the floors, thinking I was gonna be really smart, but I got overspray everywhere. So I sanded them, ruined them. Infinity Concrete came in, gave another sand, and then put a quick epoxy coat on it. So it's great, cleans up really easy. Got the Boxo tool set, which I've had, everything you need, a generic workbench. And yeah, that's it. I guess I should tell you what I'm doing before I actually get started. So I realized that my E36 time attack car isn't gonna get started for another couple of months. So track season is upon us, it's getting nice and cold out, and I need to get this car sorted because this is the only thing I have to go to the track. So the chassis is rad. All it needs is a little upgrade. So my goal is to make this thing just as competent as my E46. And the E46 had like some of the best steering and front end grip ever. And this car sort of lacks that right now. So what we're gonna do is get this car sorted so it can handle a year's worth of track duty while my E36 gets built. So we got all of the SPL goodness. So we have pretty much their entire offering for the E36. Tie rod ends, front control arms, sway bar end links, rear camber arms, pretty much everything for this car, which will make this thing super dialed because getting rid of all the compliant bushings and being able to really dial in your alignment is what's gonna make this car rip. And then I went to Laguna Seca in this thing the other day. It had stock brakes on it. Definitely lacked the confidence with both endurance and having to drive it and consistent brake feel, but also just don't feel as good with stock brakes with upgraded pads. So we're ditching them and we're doing exactly what I had on the E46, which is the Stoptech trophy kit and the nickel plated finish, because these are the best looking calipers on the market. These are so sick. They're super light, super rigid, and they've been really, really great to maintain. My E46, I ran 2 seasons on them without changing a set of rotors, which is like amazing. So I really love Stoptech. This kit is 355 mil front and rear, 4-piston front and rear. Yeah, I just love the way it looks. So those are gonna go on. Okay, so we are gonna start by loosening everything. Tie rod end, tension rod, lower control arm, sway bar end link. So that's everything for the front. So we're just gonna take everything off and then we're gonna measure everything to make sure that we put it back in as close as possible to the stock lane stuff so we could go get an alignment and they have a good baseline. So step 1, pull it all off. we got the front OEM tension rod off. And you can see the SPL arm here. I mean, right away, you can see the difference. Big rubber compliant bushing. And although this car has low miles and like should be in pretty good condition, these are definitely going to still have a ton of movement, whereas using a Heim joint like this is going to have no movement whatsoever. And then on the ball joint side, we actually replace it with, again, a rod end, like a Heim on it. So just really removing any sort of compliance. Also super adjustable here, so we'll be able to get a little bit more caster and camber adjustment out of that. So super sick. I'm gonna throw these on and then we'll move on to the rest. Step one is to measure the distance between this and this, here and here. So what you wanna do is you wanna get these as close as possible. So getting these parts to be almost identical to stock so that you can go get an alignment with a solid baseline. 15 5/8, way short. Loosen up these guys, spin them out. Here's a little tip for you guys that may not know. A lot of times, these joints like this, like ball joints, high rod ends, and etc., they pivot in their mount. So if you can't get like an air impact gun on to blip it, sometimes you'll turn this and this will also spin and you can't get this bolt off. So in this situation, what you want to do is actually put as much force onto the nut as possible. So sometimes you just take a pry and you push down, you put tension on that and it'll help get this out and you can take that out no problem. So it's a little tip just in case you didn't know. And then also getting these out, you never really want to hit these threads up here because you could screw them up. I mean, we're not reusing this time, but what you want to do is actually hit this right here. You want to hit the knuckle with a metal hammer and the vibration should cause it to pop down. Next thing you want to do is take a baseline measurement to this thing because you don't want to be eyeballing your toe, especially if you're going to even drive to a alignment shop, you'll ruin your tires. So what we're going to do, we're going to measure distance here to this. We're going to mark off the threads here also. Sorry, it's a little dark. And then we'll take this off and we'll measure this as well to make sure it's the same size as the SPL unit. All right, we got the SPL tie rod end in and adjusted all the spacers. This is gonna need adjustment because the goal is to get this arm right here. So the goal is to get this arm here, the tie rod, to be even with the control arm once the car is at ride height. So there's some spacers that we could go and put to lower the tie rod end to come out a bit. So we're gonna have to leave this loose for now and then get back to it once we can change this control arm and then put the car at ride height. Next step, we're gonna get control arm off, which is just another bolt up top and one more bolt on the frame side over here. The frame side over there, another bolt right there. That comes out, measure it, put it back in. Alright, so I got everything in. You got the tie rod, tension rod, lower control arm, and even a new headlight adjuster bracket. Only thing missing right now is a sway bar end link. The KW links are quite a bit shorter, so I have to call them tomorrow. Turner is going to send me a new end link because this is a bit long because the KW shocks run a little bit of a shorter end link. Well, that's easy enough. So everything else is in, looks great. All I gotta do is put this fender liner back in and then torque all this stuff and then do the rear and the other side. All right, so we got the rear of the car apart. What we're working on right now is these are the rear guide links and basically OEM stuff. Pretty nice on the M cars. It's all aluminum arms, but they do have factory rubber bushings. So switching them out to the SPL parts. These are all nice Heims with the FK rod ends, so these will have a lot less compliant under heavy load and be a lot more predictable and be able to really dial in the alignment. So the nice part about doing these over the fronts is that you have actual holes, not pivot joints like a ball joint. So these are super easy to match up to the OEM length, unlike the front. So let me show you how you do it. So the easy way to do this is you want these to be as close to OEM as possible, especially the non-perpendicular arms. So what you're gonna do is actually use the OEM bolts to get your correct arm length rather than measuring. So what we're gonna do is get the approximate length here. You wanna spin these out pretty evenly. So I always try to just count them as you go, get it pretty close. Now, what you'll do is you're gonna use the bolts to go through this as your guide markers. See, so this is your guide here. And what you're gonna do, make it so that these are the same length, so this will actually just slide in there. So I'm gonna spin this out some more. Boom, that's it. So that's your template, is once you get these bolted together, then you know that this is the same length as OEM. So super easy, way faster to do than having to measure, and way more accurate. And once you get those in place, just tighten up the Allens just snug so that the heims don't move when you're getting it in the car, because you will have to sort of finagle this to get it on the car. That's one. Done. This one's good. Lock it in place. Now this one goes on the car. So the install is pretty straightforward. Just got to connect them. The one problem is this sway bar is in the way of this bolt. So what I did is disconnected it on both sides, hooked up a ratchet strap, and preloaded the bar down so I could get this damn bolt in, because without the rubber bushings here, there's really no compliance to be able to finagle the bolt in any way. So it makes it way more difficult. So let's slam this stuff back in, and then move on to the camber arm. All right, that's all in. Last thing we gotta do, tighten up the Allen nuts, hook up the sway bar end link, and then we're good to go. And for everyone out there who just likes to cry about rod bearings, I have a really simple solution for you. Change your rod bearings once, and then do oil changes, like after every couple of events, and run good oil. So I run Redline 10W60. It's the same weight as factory Castrol, but this stuff holds up way better. I've been running it in all my BMWs. The S54 also has rod bearing problems, and I ran Redline in that the whole time and kicked the shit out of that car. And when we sold it, I did an inspection on the motor, great compression, leak down, and the rod bearings were in perfect shape. So get yourself some good oil, because this takes a lot of it. It's gonna be really boring. I should probably just time lapse this, huh? We are nearing the home stretch. Next up, doing brakes. Stoptech ST40 trophy kit, nickel plated. These things are super sick, really, really rigid, lightweight, super easy to swap out pads, which is great. So going from track to street, only have to pop out 2 bolts on each caliper, pop the pad out the top. They got 350mm 2-piece rotors, which are light, super strong, and really durable. I think they're 32 mil wide. So these will be a good upgrade from my tired stock brakes. So first things first, pull off the stock brakes, put on all the brakes, and then bleed them, which is gonna suck. So, 'cause I don't have a power bleeder, so we're gonna figure this out. But step one, pull this off. All right, so brakes, super easy. You got 2 bolts right here that hold the caliper to the carrier. So we're gonna pop those off real quick. Once the 2 bolts back here are off, I'm gonna pop off this anti-rattle clip. And since I only have one hand, I'm gonna try to do it without shooting myself in the face. Then what you wanna do is actually come in here and you wanna like compress the piston and the caliper back a bit. And then we're gonna pull the caliper off. You could hang it. I'm not gonna disconnect the brake line yet because I don't feel like making a mess in my garage. So I just put a jack right here. So what we're gonna do is pull this caliper off like so, and just perch it up on the jack right there, nice and easy. And then we just got to remove this caliper bracket right here, and it just has 2 bolts right in the back. So now got everything off. What we're gonna have to do, more than likely, is trim this heat shield. So we could pull it off with 3 bolts here, and then you gotta just make some room for the bigger caliper, so generally just have to cut it here and somewhere like that. So we'll pop this off, we'll trim that, and then I believe the instructions say you have to clearance this ear a little bit to clear the bracket. I think you just gotta take this little casting off of it. So we're just gonna shave that little bit of casting off with a flapper wheel, and then we're good. All right, so now we're gonna assemble the calipers. We're running their Stoptech SR33 pads. These are really solid track pads. I ran these on the E46. So what we're gonna do is run SR33s on the front and a slightly less aggressive compound, the SR32 on the rear. But one of the reasons why I love the Stoptech is just because of how easy they are to actually change brake pads. So basically you just remove these 2 Allen bolts, then you remove the bridge, and then the new pads just pretty much slide in. There's some clips in there to keep them in tight. They just slide in, pop into place. You gotta really just get them in like dead straight. Like that, and then the bridge goes back in. It's super simple, you just 1 bolt in, get it snug, and then you just push down to load the pads. Get the second one in, tighten them up, and that's it. So now this thing's just ready to go on the car. We have hardware. Got the front done. Now we're gonna move on to the rear. Then we'll talk about bedding process. We'll talk about bleeding process. Then the bedding process. I think we're almost done. We're almost done. Rear setup, pretty much identical process as the front. We're gonna pop the anti-rattle clip off, take the caliper off, take the bracket off, pull the rotor off, cut the heat shield, file down the knuckle carrier brackets, and then put all the new stuff on. Really straightforward, pretty much the same as the front, so let's get to work. All right, and the rear is all done. So now all I gotta do, clean up this complete mess that I've made, put away all my tools, bleed the brakes, adjust the ride height, make sure all the arms are straight. I gotta adjust all my adjustable end lengths. You have to do that at ride height, so a lot of up and down on the car. Get these things mounted up, go get an alignment. All right, bleeding brakes. Generally the worst thing you have to do, but this tool, which costs like $8, is probably the best thing ever. So now you can bleed your brakes by yourself. You don't need any second hand to pump the brakes, and it's actually might even be faster. So this is how it works. Basically, the tube goes down into the fluid here so that it doesn't suck back in air. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this on the bleeder. Make sure you grab the right hose. This goes on here, and you crack the bleeder open. Some air and fluid starting to come out. You just go in the car yourself, give it like 3 good pumps. Slow, you don't really wanna rush it. Then you want to come out and check out the fluid. And you could see, inspect the line, make sure there's no big air bubbles in there. Cap it back off, undo the line, and then we're going to go and do the back. So on these Stoptechs, the way they want you to do it is outboard, then inboard. And then right before you're done, you want to take a rubber mallet, tap the caliper a bit, and then re-bleed them, because some air could actually get stuck in the caliper because you have the crossover and all that. So, and one thing you really want to be concerned about while you're doing this is that you keep checking the fluid level on your brake fluid, because you don't want to suck air into your master. But you want to make sure every single time you close the cap, close the reservoir, because brake fluid actually absorbs water. So the more you have it open, the more water will end up in your lines. More water in your lines, the worse your brakes work. So just always keep it closed right away. And you can see here, looks pretty good. Close that off, cap that there. Yeah, you want to kind of avoid getting brake fluid anywhere. Now we'll go around, we'll grab a little rubber mallet here. Just go around and tap, and then re-bleed. That's it. should be good to go. What I usually do is start the car, put it in gear, roll it a bit, because sometimes the pads will like move and settle, and then you gotta rebleed them again. I'm generally terrible at bleeding brakes, so if this works on the first try, I'll be really happy. So keep you updated. But for now, what we're gonna do is go back through the car, quick nut and bolt check, make sure everything's tight. Hopefully my end lengths show up today, and then we go get an alignment, mount some tires. All right, we got the tires on, wheels on. These things look sick. The 660s are super wide. I mean, these things have to run at least 10 mil wider, because these are 275s. They fit way wider than my 615 K pluses. The K pluses actually had a little bit of stretch on these tires, and these actually have a bit of bulge, which is super sick. They look really good. God damn, look at those brakes. So sick. Yeah, I'm pumped. This looks really good. Car feels dialed, got the alignment, got a couple little things to finish up. It'll be good to hit the track. Picked up some Recaro Sportster GTs, because these are reclinable. Pretty much the same weight. They're a little bit heavier than the Profi XLs, but these being a fixed back seat and obviously a shell, make it a little less streetable. They're not bad. They're good for me. They're still pretty comfortable, but I think that these will be way better. They still have a ton of bolstering for keeping you in at the track, so if I want to take these to the track, I totally could, and they'll be comfortable for the way there and back, but supportive on track. These will be a quick swap because these seats are on sliders as well. And generally when they're not on sliders, it's a real pain in the ass, but we're just gonna pop out these bolts, slide the seat forward, pop out those bolts, and then we'll be good to go. Yes, these look so sick. And also didn't realize, or I didn't think about it then, but carbon trim, leather carbon trim. So it matches really nice. These look friggin' sick. All right, home stretch. Got one last thing to do. But before we do that, check out all these new plates we got from Hoonigan. Got the black and white USDM size plate, the OG California looking tire slayer plate, the 80s California looking plate, and then miscellaneous Euro plates. These are all super cool. I actually always put these on when we go to the track, so you don't have to have your license plates and pictures and stuff, which doesn't matter, but I just think they're cool to swap out. So if you want some, go pick them up while we still have them. But this is a part that my buddy Mike Miggs used to run a company called Status Group to make a bunch of really cool parts for BMWs. But he came up with these things, and it's basically a wireless charger that fits in the OEM ashtray in the E92. So he sent me one of those, and I want to toss it in because the center console in this car just has like an ashtray and a cigarette lighter, which is useless. And then there's also another cigarette lighter here. So if you have to charge anything, you have that. So having this compartment's pretty dumb, and I don't actually use it. So this thing's pretty sweet. I think it's fairly easy to put on. And let's give it a shot real quick. Well, that was about the easiest install you could ever get. Looks super nice. Should fit like OEM. Throw it in. Charges the phone. Not bad. So yeah, shout out to Mike. Thanks for thinking about me on this. If you guys are interested, I'll drop the link down in the description so you could check it out. If you got an E92 or E90 or want to retrofit this to other cars, it's a pretty sweet little mod. All right, well that's it for this episode. I wanted to give a quick recap. So we just got back from Buttonwillow. We went out for the KW like test and tune day, and I wanted to give a quick update on the Falkens because a lot of people have been waiting for these tires to come out, and they're just starting to get here in the bigger sizes. So I wanted to give my review on them. It's not like a paid sponsorship or ad at all, but just kind of wanted to give my fellow enthusiasts who are waiting for this tire my quick view on it. So these are Falken RT660s in 275, 35, 18, front and rear. This tire is filthy because my driveway is currently dirt, but this has 8 sessions at Buttonwillow. So this is like 2 track days in one, plus about 1,000 miles of street driving. Still have a ton of life left. They look brand new. Here's my opinion on them. They have a ton of grip. I've actually never felt grip like this before. I've only driven a handful of other tires, Hankook RS4s, like back in the day on my E46, Toyo R888Rs, BFG Rival S, and BFG Rival R1 slicks, and a couple other cars, but on my personal cars, that's really it. I have to say they have a tremendous amount of grip. I've never actually felt grip like this before, so it was a lot of fun. The first 2 to 3 really, really hot laps, the tires are on point. They don't really fall off a ton as they get hot. I was still able to do within the same second of my lap times for 8 to 10 laps. This car, which is everything you've seen done to it here, pretty fairly common bolt-on E92 M3. I did a 158.0 7 times. So I think these tires rip. I think I could do a 56 on them, no problem. Just got to get my driving down pat. Also, Alan from Sparco was out there with a very similar setup car, but a sedan. He was going back-to-back trying AO52s, 295 square, and the 660s and a 275, 315 staggered setup. And his times were within like 3/10 of the AO52s, which are sort of like the #1 time attack tire right now. So if you guys are looking for a great tire for a bargain, the 660 rips. I totally recommend trying it out. I really like them. I'm gonna be sticking with this tire for a bit. Yeah, I dig it. I'm super satisfied with not only the tire, but the whole car really is great. I mean, this thing has come along to be a perfect street car that you can take to the track. And that's it for this episode. I don't really have a ton left to be planned for this car. Once I finish the Porsche, I'm gonna start working on an E36. I'm gonna build into like a dedicated time attack track car. So that'll be my next build after the Porsche. But for now, super happy with this. So hope you enjoyed the episode. We're either gonna put full lap at the end of this episode, but if it's too long, we'll put it on bonus and we'll link video in the description below so you can check out the lap. Thanks for watching. That's a wrap. Take some measurements. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Sorry, everyone. It's hard, man. Camera on your own, it's tough. Just imagine me measuring it, and then I'll tell you what I did.